wasn't dead. I told him crashing the Olympic closing ceremonies the night before his next review was a bad idea. No, you didn't. I was thinking it really hard. Ugh. Sorry I'm late, people, but I got so frustrated with that last review that something in my head told me to go where there were some real admirable women. So I may have had Jeannie blink me to London, and, long story short, I may have gotten my passport revoked, and there might be some photos of me and Hope solo on the web somewhere by now. But let's just focus on the task at hand and get back to our reviews of comic strip adaptations. The comic strip Baby Blues debuted in 1990 and is the creation of Rick Kirkman and Jerry Scott, centered around the family life of Daryl and Wanda McPherson and their kids. It's not one of my all-time must-read strips, but it can be entertaining, and it could perhaps be called a more modern and funnier version of Family Circus. It's a strip where the characters do age, hence why they've gone from 1 kid to 3, but supposedly they age about 1 year for every 3 in our timeline, and even that can be inconsistent since the youngest son, Ren, was born in 2000 and is still portrayed as 1 year old. Whatever the case, Time Warner agreed to help produce and release an animated series based on the strip that ultimately debuted on the WB in the year 2000. Or should I say they took the bare basics of the strip and proceeded to stab its creators in the back? The show reportedly took 4 years to produce, and Kirkman and Scott had pretty much no involvement in the production, reduced to being credited as executive producers. All in all, 13 episodes were released over 2 seasons, including only 8 in the original run on WB. The remaining episodes were aired on Cartoon Network's Adult Swim in 2002. When you need 2 seasons over 3 years to release the same number of episodes I got in a standard Saturday morning season, I think things are not going well. Let's check the pilot episode to see how much the show's in tune with its cutesy, innocent comedy.
Ah, Daryl! You're supposed to be dead!
Dad? Kenny announced it at the morning meeting.
Did I say Daryl? I meant Larry.
Seriously, the first episode starts with Daryl and Wanda wondering what would happen if they died.
Daryl, if I died, would you remarry?
Though I will give Daryl props for having Mia Hamm as his #1 fantasy. So the show has the 2 main parental characters, Daryl and Wanda, and their infant daughter Zoe. And already we see how this show is not in tune with the strip of the time, because in 2000, Zoe I think was about 5 years old, and they already had their second child, Hammy, who was probably about 2 or 3. And trust me, that's only the beginning of the issues.
You better shake off that fatigue, Captain, before it's too late.
Now, what's that mean?
Come on, she's a new mom. Her hormone meter's in the red zone.
So what, Wanda's gonna start having affairs?
Those feelings gotta go somewhere.
Other than that, a lot of the episodes have Daryl and Wanda interacting with their dysfunctional neighbor family, the Bittermans. Carl is like a cross between Tim Allen's character from Home Improvement mixed with Homer Simpson. Melinda is a chain smoker who looks like she lost her faith in humanity somewhere down the line. And then there's the kids. Rodney, who's like Bart Simpson with Quagmire's jaw, Megan, who does little but cry and laugh, and Shelby, who says nothing and hits things with a fungo bat, which is supposed to indicate that he'll become a serial killer.
Yeah, Shelby's the only real shot out of the 3, but you don't want the others to get discouraged.
Don't touch that knife!
I'm not touching it, Megan. He's not touching it.
Ah, that's it!
Poor Carl. Rodney knows his dad will always love him one notch more than he wants to kill him.
Oh, and there's also their babysitter, Busy, who mostly complains about life at her house and her mother's intolerable boyfriend, Drew Carey.
Why can't you just leave me alone, Drew?
Because I care about you, and I don't want you to make bad choices.
Although if dinner conversations at my house were all about the Cleveland Browns, I'd probably get fed up too. And if any of you regularly read the Baby Blues comic strip, you by now have realized the #1 issue with this show. That being that not one of these supporting characters was ever in the comic strip. And it's not because the strip itself had a lack of supporting cast, it's because the producers decided we need to turn this innocent family comic strip into Married with Children. They flat out decided that a show about kids saying the darndest things would be for losers and dorks, and thus they needed to shoehorn in another family whose father teaches his kids how to kill people, and a bratty teenager who tricks Wanda into breaking into amusement parks and grave robbing.
Megan, if you don't hit the solar plexus, you're not gonna stop the heart.
But I punctured the sternum.
Hey, Rodney, show your sister how it's done.
I can't wait for this network to try and make a new Charlie Brown series where Snoopy gets thrown into a dog-fighting ring. This is not a cartoon version of the comic strip in any way. This is the work of network executives forcing what they think people want to watch and refusing to give us anything different. Never mind the fact that at the time, the strip had a viewership of about 60 million, which I'm guessing was at least 10 times what any of WB's other sitcoms were drawing. Never mind that Daryl and Wanda at the time already had 2 kids in the strip who were at toddler age, and the kids' interaction with the parents was what drove the strip and made it funny. But of course, a cartoon show about innocent family hijinks just will never work in prime time at the turn of the century. We have to turn it into a retread of every dysfunctional family sitcom ever made, only the dysfunctional family is in the supporting cast and steals the spotlight from the actual strip characters. And of course, we have to throw in words like skank, slut, and whore that were never in the strip at all.
And David saw Debbie, and he was like, hey, Debbie. And Debbie was like, hey, David, can you believe that? What a slut.
How appropriately ironic that the Bare Naked Ladies hit It's All Been Done Before was this show's opening theme song. And as the ultimate topper, the network actually changed the show's name to Bluesville because they actually said their main teenage girl demographic wouldn't be drawn to a show with baby in the title. Even though Kirkman and Scott say the strip actually does well with that audience according to comic strip surveys. Scott wasn't even told about the change by the network. He heard about it from Jim Borgman, who Scott also works with on the comic strip Zits, and had to talk directly with WB's CEO Jamie Kellner to get the name changed back. But what else would you expect from a studio who thought Birds of Prey should have been more of a teen romance drama than a superhero action show? Oh, and the reason these new characters never appeared in the strip, even after the show's creation? They're Time Warner's intellectual property, who wouldn't license them out to King Feature Syndicate, even though adding them to the strip might have helped promote the show. If you didn't want to make a show that was like the strip, then why did you agree to adapt the strip in the first place? What makes this worse is that a number of the episodes are not that bad out of context. Seriously, the Bitterman family could actually be pretty funny at times. As a family, they're not as bad as the Bundys, frequently showing that they do care for one another, and the fact that they're animated helps make them more over the top and enjoyable.
Is Shelby playing with a bear trap?
Shelby Ray, you put that back in the garage.
So does that justify WB putting them into this show? No! If you wanted your own version of The Simpsons, make the show about the Bittermans and create your own secondary family to be their foil, and then the show might have worked. It seems like the WB wanted to jump on the chance to adapt what was becoming a popular comic strip at the time, but when it turned out to be something that didn't fit their demo, rather than just admit their mistake, they completely made it what they wanted, not what fans of the strip would expect when they tuned in.
Ma! There's pipes blowing stinky air! See you tomorrow. I gotta go call the gas company.
And yes, other adaptations like Dilbert and Garfield and Friends had characters that weren't in the strips, but they were added on to be used on occasion after the shows established the strip's main characters. In this show, pretty much every episode has Daryl and Wanda's conflict center around the Bittermans or Busy. They debate whether to make the Bittermans Zoe's guardians in their will. They worry about Busy's attraction to losers and bad boys. The Bittermans lure away Busy as a babysitter after they start making more money. Daryl and Wanda get Rodney to move in with them because he keeps Zoe from crying. Heck, Zoe, the baby from the title, is practically an afterthought. Maybe Bill Watterson had it right in not going for an adaptation of Calvin and Hobbes. They probably would have had Hobbes breaking into the zoo so he could mate with the tigresses or something. The last episode ever aired pretty much sums up what was wrong with the show. It actually had a good basis, the old reverse role story where Wanda goes back to work while Daryl becomes a stay-at-home dad, and they actually enjoy the new roles, but can't help pining for what they used to have. So what goes wrong here? Well, the episode opens with a scene involving the Bittermans and not the main characters.
The court ruled that the kindergarten can't keep Shelby out just because he looks like he's gonna kill somebody. He's gotta actually do it.
I'll bet that joke really went over well in Columbine. And of course the Bittermans get tied into the story because Wanda's work endeavor involves her going into business with Melinda.
Welcome to the knick-knack niche. Do you like the name?
It's very clever.
Yeah, my grandpa had 3 big K's carved on his tombstone. I never knew what it meant, but it's always been a pleasant association.
They made a Ku Klux Klan reference. They made a Ku Klux Klan reference on a show based on a family-themed comic strip. Cut the feed! You know, it's a lot easier to take out your frustrations when you have a genie to repair everything afterward. I should really do something nice for her.
I can found a multinational corporation anytime, but Zoe's only going to be a baby once.
So are you really okay walking away from all this?
We've been thinking about selling anyway. We got an offer from the Disney people.
No kidding.
Yeah, they're gonna add a daycare center and put up pictures of all their beloved characters.
That's great.
Plus, they said if we didn't accept, they'd crush us.
And this was shown by Time Warner, who crushed Hanna-Barbera under its thumb. This was one of the worst adaptations ever! As a standalone entry, it could have worked. A lot of the characters, especially the supporting cast, could be entertaining. The writing was funny and creative at times, and the animation is pretty good quality. The problem is that it's not Baby Blues, relying on characters that were never part of the source material instead of expanding on the concept of what the strip was about. I can't verify this, but I wouldn't be surprised if Kirkman and Scott were so unhappy with the end result that they stopped giving it support. There's supposedly been another 13 episodes nearly completed, but they never aired. It has aired on TBS since, but there's been no DVD release that I know of. Jerry Scott followed up this show by trying for a live-action movie adaptation of his and Jim Borgman's Zitz comic strip, but it never got off the ground, which was probably a good idea in the end. I mean, what could have possibly made this network think that a show about funny children couldn't be entertaining?
Oh, no! I'm still training him to look down. Marvin?
Oh.